Good day, class. Today we're going to talk about building logic diagrams in order to identify solutions. As a quick reminder, we're going to go back to the starvation problem that I shared with you in defining problems at the start of the course. The adage that we started with was, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And when we analyzed this problem, we decided to dig deeper because we realized the fishermen actually know how to fish, but people are still starving. And when you dug deeper, you began to identify the root causes. And whether or not we looked at the root problem from a starvation perspective or from a health problem perspective, the key root cause, the key problem for both was river water quality is deteriorating. We then analyzed the problem further through logic diagrams, and we grouped it into these major categories with the problem in the middle, and above it would be the societal, economic, health, well-being, and environmental effects. And below it, we began to think about the causes. Again, just as a quick refresher, we identified the three major effects of the water quality deterioration. Fishing families' income declined. Why was that? River ecosystems and fish stock were declining. And the other big issue related to is poor health conditions. We then looked at what were the causes, and there were three major contributing factors. High levels of solid waste being dumped into the river water. Most households and factories discharge wastewater directly into the river. And then the wastewater treatment plants actually did not meet environmental standards. And then when we looked at those and the causes, we grouped the causes into these five major categories. Poor water quality controls and compliance. The EPA was not doing its job. Stakeholders were not aware of the danger of dumping waste. There were very little public education programs. There were inadequate regulations. The politicians were not focused on this topic. The sewage network was incomplete. High percentages of people could not hook up to the sewage system, and the government did not invest money into the infrastructure to build the sewage network. So these became our primary causes. And if you recall, we used words to describe the problem in the red box, the effects in the green above it, and the key contributing factors and the causes underneath them. If we take this framework for how you analyze a problem, you can also apply it to how you develop solutions. And our focus today is on solutions which can form your recommendations. So let's look at the framework. What was our problem in the middle now becomes our goal. What is the change we want? Above it are the outcomes, the things that we want to see drastically improve in terms of society, the economy, the health and well-being of the individuals, and the environment. Underneath the goal, we can define more specific objectives. That would be SMART objectives. Those would be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and have timing. And then underneath that, we can actually develop our recommendations that address the causes of the problem. Now I'm going to walk you through this example. So you take a problem statement, river water quality is deteriorating, and you flip it, and your goal becomes river water quality is improved. Just as we had identified the effects of deteriorating water, we can take these effects and we can change them into our desired outcomes. Our desired outcomes is that fishing family incomes increase, the river ecosystem and fish stock is improved, and health conditions also are improved. And you can put the detailed phrases to describe these. The objectives and the metrics ended up being our contributing factors. So our objectives to achieve our goal that the water quality is improved is that the quantity of solid waste dumped into the river is reduced. The number of households and factories discharging wastewater directly into the river is reduced. And thirdly, 100% of the wastewater treated in plants meets environmental standards. Now, what do you need to do in terms of specific recommendations to achieve these SMART objectives? Well, one would be have improved water quality controls and compliance. And if you recall, this ties in with what the causes are, but we're going to make them recommendations now. We're going to make sure the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is effective and responsive to the various stakeholder interests, and that the polluters are effectively controlled. Next, we're going to do stakeholder analysis. We're going to make sure the population is aware of the danger of dumping waste into the river, and we're going to have a major public education campaign. We're going to improve regulations. These new legal regulations will be established so we can prevent discharges into the river, and we're going to make sure the politicians establish this as a high priority. We're also going to invest capital money to build a sewage infrastructure that will increase the percent of households and businesses connected to the sewage network. And we're going to make sure the local government planning is much more effective than it's been in the past, and that they have cost recovery mechanisms in terms of their investment into the infrastructure. So these form the recommendations in your paper. They are tied to SMART objectives to achieve the goal of river water quality is improved. And if we do all of that together, we'll have better outcomes, as we had discussed before, in terms of society, the economic, the health, well-being, and the environmental benefits. So as I unveil this, you'll see how the pieces fit together into another logic diagram that's focused on solutions. And the good news is, if we do this, the fishermen will have a greater catch, and they will help feed many, many more families for a long time. So for your next steps, I want you to apply the logic diagram to your policy problem and come up with ways to analyze solutions that could fit into your paper. Look forward to seeing you in class. Take care. Bye-bye. So if you've enjoyed that video, it is one in a 3-part series that you might want to check out. The 3 series have to do with using 5 whys to define policy problems, using logic diagrams to analyze policy problems, and using logic diagrams to develop policy solutions.